There's a giant ravine back here, so what he's going to do is rough cut around the ravine and just kind of, he's got a whole nother day tomorrow. So he's just going to push around the ravine nice and quick until he gets back to the markings on the property line and then get back on the property line. Now this is a path that crosses a level area that's upslope from the property line. Because the property line actually goes back much further, but it's downhill. We don't want to cut paths on any downhill slopes. We want to cut paths on the crowns, the ridges, and the other level spaces. And so if we get a path like this, you can easily get a four-wheeler through this stuff. And so what he's doing is he's just getting the basic path. Not trying to be super nice and neat about it. Just getting a basic path. And then tomorrow, when he's got more time, he can outline his path to make it wider. And by making it wider, he can make it wider in slope. So you can see over here is down slope a little bit. There's kind of a ridge in here. The ridge goes kind of in the middle here. So he can cut out on the ridge up this way to get us a little bit cleaner path as we're coming down the back of the hill here. And then where we come down the hill, there's a big ditch over there. We want to stay away from that ditch. And so I'm kind of standing on the property line, the double lines of the property line. And that property line goes back. You can see the blotches over there. Goes back down that way again, goes down slope. Okay? We don't want to be cutting roads or driving or moving along the down slope. We want to be moving around level paddocks. And then we'll get the animals in here. They'll thin out the woods really good. And then we'll start rehabilitating the woods. Goats first to clear out the underbrush. And then depending on what grows back, we might have hogs in here. I found acorns. I found a lot of things where we can get some small hogs through here. We under pressure the property by not putting too many animals on it and start working our animal load up a little bit after we get restoration. We'll be using 1 acre paddocks, and we have at least a 12-acre flat area. It's not flat, it's a 40-foot elevation difference. But what we'll do is we'll get the animals on 1 acre paddocks and move them through. We'll move the goats through, and then we'll move the pigs through, and then we'll move chickens through. And the order will depend on a lot of things, but we'll ultimately be moving animals through the property in rotation, and probably about a week on each paddock. So if we have 12 paddocks, that's 12 weeks before they're back around on the original paddock again. But actually this property here, we should be able to get almost 20 1-acre paddocks. Now there's more land than that, but not all the land is level, and not all the land is accessible. So again, access. Cutting these paths means we can get temporary fencing in, we can get water and food to the animals, and we can get the woods thinned out to determine what we need. Plus, when it comes time, some of these rickety old curved trees and stuff can get cut out for firewood. Okay, now there's also some rock mounds in the woods here. I looked at satellites, I looked at old paddock and old pasture, and this used to be mostly pasture. I'm mimicking the previous pastures, so we don't have the forest mower go over barbed wire, so that we don't have any construction work to be done. No earthworks need to be done up front, and we're getting this stuff done. Now, the forest mulcher guy, he wants to do a nicer job. He wants to shred everything down really fine. But what I explained to him is this shredded stuff here, I'm going to spray it and inoculate it with oyster mushrooms, shiitake mushrooms, different native mushrooms for this region. And so all this shredded material is just going to start building up that mycorrhiza and that mycelium and that ground, all the food in the ground. And then we're going to get that into grass so that when we bring animals through, the animals can start getting those nutrients and those minerals. But I'm going to let nature break down the materials all the way. He is simply making a path wide enough that we can put a fence through, and all we need is 4 foot wide to get a fence through. He can cut a path like this, no problem. And so we should be able to get a truck back here, but at minimum, we'll be able to get a four-wheeler with a trailer on it. So again, we can bring water to the animals, we can bring food to the animals, we can move portable fence, and then later, I can always widen it up again. And we can widen it up by cutting firewood. We can widen it up by bringing the forest mulcher back out. But when it's widened up, then we can get our permanent fences and our road system in place. So folks, these are designed this way. This is designed on paper first before it was put into progress. And it's a system built on nature. And I'm going to get what I want. Don't get me wrong. I'll get what I want from the land. But I'm going to give the land so much tender love and care, so much ecology management, that we're going to have increased wildlife, increased species, better soil management. Like anywhere there's erosion, I'm going to come in and take care of that. Brush dams, different things like that. Even how we're, instead of clear cutting the land with bulldozers, we're not disturbing any of the surface. There's no soil disruption here, because essentially what we're doing is we're mulching down everything from the top here. And by the way, I'm not doing the work. He's doing all the work. All I'm doing is surveying, land design. See, we're not even worried about the stumps. And he's out here, and I could have another contractor do your property, but basically he's out here getting these paths straight, getting the access. And what I did in the design is I actually got him to work from the back of the property to the front. So now he's in the back of the property. He's probably got like 2 hours left on the clock. He's working his way back to his truck. So when he steps off that piece of equipment, I want to make it easy on him. When he steps off that piece of equipment, he's going to be within eyesight of his truck. So he can come back tomorrow, finish off where he left off, and things are going to be great. Now, granted, my markings aren't that good. 2 lines means a property line. If there's barbed wire, I sprayed the barbed wire because I definitely don't want him running into that. But he's a little snaking back and forth now, which is okay. I don't need a straight fence going through here because, again, he's going around this big ditch that's right here. But look at all this carbon matter. And you might be saying, well, Justin, you could have taken those trees out and timbered them. No, they couldn't. They're 3 inches big. He's not taking down anything bigger than, actually, he's not even taking down anything this big. He's taking down brush. He's taking down these damn things. These thorns and brambles. Again, if you want to do this type of thing, if you want to restore land and make it more valuable than it was previously, because this land, again, was pasture, and it came back naturally, and a lot of people will say, just leave the forest alone. Let it come back naturally. Well, I'm going to bring value to this forest by being a good steward of it, by researching the types of plants that should be out here, by looking at ground covers, by looking at the ecology system. This is a size tree that he's taken out. This tells me that this land had been cleared before, because right here you see these different shafts. That's what happens when you coppice a tree. We're going to coppice. Instead of cutting down big trees like that, those big trees are going to stay up until they're nice, big, and mature, and they're going to make boards. But meanwhile, we'll coppice all the small trees and make smaller firewood. And so big trees like that will get plenty of time to grow. They'll provide shelter and habitat for animals. And we're not clearing out these other areas. See, I can run that doesn't need to be straight to put a temporary fence through. I can run a temporary fence through just basic, but when it's all brambles and nasty like this, it's really hard. So folks, if you have any questions about what we're covering here, ask them in the comments. You can get more value from your land. You can get better access to your land. You can create a better ecology for deer. It's actually bear out here. I am carrying out here. You can create habitat for small birds, for big birds, everything, if you manage the property correctly. The key is the management, not just letting it grow. Letting it grow is fine, but again, if you're going to own a piece of property, we want it to go beyond growth. We want to accelerate the growth. We want to stimulate the ecology. We want to solve any erosion problems, like this giant ditch that's back here. I'm thinking about how I could dam up one end of it so that it can start filling itself in, and start becoming more of a productive area than a non-productive area. So if you put a dam in it, it could fill up with water. It could settle that water through the year, and now we're rehydrating the soil. These access routes are on contour. Could they be dug out later to be swales, to soak and spread water? Maybe, maybe not. All that's land dependent. So let me just wrap up this right now. These paths make it easier to access and utilize the property. These woods are too thick to be bow hunting in them. You'll lose so many arrows, but of course you can get something that's on the paths. We're doing it by not cutting and hauling off the trees. We're mulching the trees down onto the ground as ground cover. I will introduce pasture blends of seed, which include clover and grasses, but I'm going to make sure I'm adding as many grasses that I already find out here. So I'm importing seed according to the plants that are already here. And then as far as it being opened up like this, some of these small trees are going to start growing faster. So I'll start thinning out the undesirable trees and use them as firewood. And then later down the line, if I do have somebody come in to select cut, they can come in and access to select cut. And then once there's grass growing on this, which grass isn't going to grow on all of it, by the way, I just selected grass because I saw some clearings already had grass growing out of them. Again, it used to be pasture. But if we get any grass growing back here, I'll basically bush hog it once a month and leave that cut on the ground. I'm not going to bale it for straw or anything. I'll just use a flail mower or a bush hog, some kind of flail mower would be best, and just flail it and let it rot into the ground. I'm building up a topsoil layer. I'm building up this topsoil so that when we have grass growing on it, it's going to be excellent feed for our animals. I want to thank you for watching. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. Click the link below to join us at www.prosperityhomestead.org and ask about some of the tip sheets we have, some of the longer instructional videos. And I want to really thank you for your time, and I'll be happy to answer any questions in the comments.